All right, in section 5.5, we're going to start talking about slope, which is actually a ratio. Here's your key idea. Your slope, or what slope is a rate of change. A slope is a rate, more specifically a rate of change between any 2 points on a line. Basically, it measures how steep a line is. So the steeper the line, the higher the slope. So here's how you find it. To find the slope of a line, you need to find the ratio, which is a fraction, the ratio in the change of y divided by the change in x. So the change in y divided by the change in x. Now, change in y. You should notice that the change in y is a vertical axis, so it's the vertical change. The change in x is the horizontal change, because that's on the x-axis. So, we're going to go from one point to the next. We pick any 2 points on this line. So, let me actually pick a color here. Let's draw purple. So here's a point and here's a point. We can see that the horizontal change represented in blue is 2, because we go over 2 units to the right. 1, 2. 2 to the right is positive. Now, the slope going up, the vertical change is 3. Right 2, up 3. So up 3 is your change in y, so that represents the numerator. Your change in x, which is represented by 2, is the denominator's 3/2. Your slope must be written as a ratio, so if it's an improper fraction, you are not going to change it into a mixed number. So the slope in this problem is 3/2. Now there's another way to do it. This is the way I like to use more. I always go up first, up or down, and then I go over. So I say up 3, which is your change in y, right 2, which is your change in x, which is 3 over 2. It's going to give you the same answer. So it will give you the same answer. Now let's say we went the other direction. I'm going to draw the line, and I'm going to draw the 2 points. Let's say instead of going from the left point to the right point, we start at this point, and we go down 3, and then we go left 2. Now normally when you do slope, you always go from left to right. But if you did this, down 3 would be represented by -3. Left 2 would be represented by -2. That would also work. So -3 divided by -2 also gives you the same answer as +3/2. All right, example 1. Find your own slope. So A and B, they've already given you the red and blue, the change in y over change in x. So in A, change in y, what's your vertical change? It's +4. What's your horizontal change? It's 3. So your slope is 4/3. In B, this is usually the way I do it. I go up first and then over, or down and over. So up 3 would be your vertical change. Right 6 is your horizontal change. That would be 3/6, but we need to simplify that. And that would give me 1/2. Notice that this slope in A and B are both positive, and your lines are going uphill. That is something to take note of later on. All right, I want you to do these two on your own, completely on your own. Pause the video, and if you don't get it, or if you need extra help, or to check your answer, hit play. Example number 1. I'm going to go from the left point to the right point. So I'm going to go up and to the right. What's my vertical change? It's 2. Now the other way to get that is this value right here is 0 for y. This value here for y is 2. What's the change from 0 to 2? It's +2. So we know my vertical change is 2. My horizontal change goes from 0 to 5. Well, that's going to be a change of 5. I'm going to go 5 to the right. So my slope would be 2/5. In example 2, how many up, how many over? Well, if I'm going from 5, I'm sorry, not 5. If I'm going from, I'm sorry, my vertical change is 5. So if I go from 5 to 8, that means I go up 3. I go from 1 to 2, that means I go right 1. So my slope would be 3 over 1, which would simplify into 3. All right, example number 2. Let's interpret what the slope means. This is so important. So important. And students have a lot of trouble with this. So the table shows your earnings for babysitting. A, graph the data. B, find and interpret the slope of the line through the points. So here we have a table. This is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. So I'm going to, through the magic of this program, going to graph it. And if I graph it, and there's my graph. You'll notice that if you graphed the points, you would graph 0, 0, 210, 420, 630, 840, 1050. And notice that I have a title and 2 labels. Hours is your x-axis, earnings, which is in dollars, and the y. So there's my graph. Find and interpret the slope of the line. This is the best part. If you find the slope, you pick any 2 points. Notice that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can pick any 2 of them. Now 2 of them I've picked for you, and that's 420 and 840. So I'm actually going to circle them up here. 420 and 820. So my slope is what? What's my slope? Vertical change of 20, horizontal change of 4, and therefore that would give me 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Or 5 over 1. What does that mean? Interpret that slope. Well, now we look at the labels. If you don't know what it is, we know that slope was change in y. Well, what's your y-axis say? It says earnings in dollars. Your x-axis said hours. So since we're talking about babysitters, this means that you have $5 per hour. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about earnings. So the slope means that you earn $5 per hour. Notice that that's a unit rate. That's a review of what we talked about at the beginning of chapter 5. So you're earning $5 per hour. Now we're going to take this one step further. You'll notice that this is a constant. A constant means this rate never changes. You'll also notice that you don't have to use the graph. Look at what happens here. This is probably, to me, the most important thing. What's your change in x each time? What's happening to all these values as they go from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6? They're increasing by 2 each time. What do you notice is happening to y? They're increasing by 10 each time. So the change in y is 10, the change in x is 2, and 10 divided by 2 also will give you the slope of $5 per hour. All right, so I have the graph again, and I want you to do example 3 on your own. In example 2, use 2 other points to find the slope. Does the slope change? So rather than picking the points 420 and 840, pick any other 2 points and see if the slope changes. If you did it correctly, no matter what you do, you are going to still get a slope of 5. All right, now in example 4, the graph shows the amounts you and your friend earn babysitting. So as you look at this graph, the earnings in dollars is represented by the y-axis and hours is represented by x. You are represented by a green line and your friend is represented by a blue line. Compare the steepness of the lines. What does this mean in the context of the problem? Which line is steeper? Your friend's line is steeper. Why is that? What does that mean? It means that your friend makes more money. Your friend has a higher rate. So your friend has a higher pay rate. So find and interpret the slope. Well, let's find the slope. The blue line, your friend. What's your change in y? Now, all I do is I look at the change in y from 28 to 56. 28 to 56 means that's a vertical change of 28. A horizontal change from 4 to 8 would be 4. So 28 divided by 4 means that your friend makes $7 per hour. Now you go from 420 to 840. So your change in y, change in vertical, is 40 minus 20, which is 20. And your 4 to 8 would be a change of 4. So 20 divided by 4 means that you make $5 per hour. Interpreting means tell me what it means. So your friend makes $7 per hour and you make $5 per hour. Now I know it said the blue line, but I did the green line as well. All right, the last thing we're going to go over is this study tip. I would make a note that this is quite important, and I would write this down in your notes with a star next to it. The slope of a line is the same between any 2 points on the line because lines have a constant rate of change.